So a lot of Nintendo Switch owners have grabbed their cowboy hat, dusted off their spurs and chaps, and have hopped on their horse because now it looks like Red Dead Redemption 2 might have leaked for the Nintendo Switch. But did it really? What's going on, guys? RGT85 here. And yes, it looks like Red Dead Redemption 2 might have somewhat sort of leaked for the Nintendo Switch, and a lot of people are running with this story. But there are some things I want to go over because I'm not quite as convinced as some others are. Now, this is obviously stemming from a retailer listing. Now, this is a Spanish website called Instant Gaming that is a large retailer, and they put up a listing today for Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Nintendo Switch. You can see the listing here. It's obviously a very popular listing, and yeah, just going down the list here, you can see that they are saying that Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming to the Nintendo Switch sometime in 2020. No concrete release date yet. And just looking over this website, you can see that it is a pretty legit website. They obviously have a lot of sales on things. You can see they have a lot of followers on social media, and they sell a lot of games. So this isn't some sort of fly-by-night website that nobody has ever heard of. Instant Gaming evidently is a large Spanish retail website. So a lot of people are thinking that there could be something to this. And honestly, I can see why people are thinking about this. I just want to look at this from sort of a different perspective and just sort of counteract some of the things that I've seen people say online about this potential Nintendo Switch port. Now, honestly, this isn't the first time that we have heard that Red Dead Redemption 2 could potentially be coming to the Nintendo Switch. In 2019, Target of Australia actually put up a listing for a Nintendo Switch version of Red Dead Redemption 2. You can see the ad that was listed here. They show the PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch as having Red Dead Redemption 2. But honestly, I feel like this was just sort of a mistake. You know, this was just some sort of advertising mistake. But to say that Red Dead Redemption in general hasn't been somewhat rumored for the Nintendo Switch since the inception of the system, I think would be downplaying it. It is something that we have heard. And of course, when you look at Rockstar as a company, it's not like they're completely shying away from the Nintendo Switch. We of course got LA Noire on the Nintendo Switch alongside of the PS4 and the Xbox One, a sort of remastered edition of the Xbox 360 game that a lot of us really loved. Sort of a different take on Rockstar games, more of a detective style game than, you know, sort of an open world style game, but it was definitely a very fun game. So there is grounds for Rockstar to be working on Nintendo Switch games. I don't think you can necessarily downplay that. And of course, you have a lot of other things that just sort of seem to be happening alongside of this. Yesterday on the channel, we talked about how GameStop added in 12 new SKUs for the Nintendo Switch of unannounced games, basically mystery games when it comes to the system. So a lot of people, myself included, feel that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in the month of January. It just sort of makes sense. So could Red Dead Redemption 2 be one of the games that's announced during this January Nintendo Direct that we all know is more than likely coming? And could it be one of the games that GameStop has listed as one of their mystery SKUs? So there's a lot of different things that are going on right now that are making people excited, that are making people sort of think outside of the box. And when you talk about the Nintendo Switch as a system, it's not outside the realm of possibility for the impossible port to come over to the Nintendo Switch. It's something that we've seen time and time again. Games that nobody thought would be on the system end up coming to the system. We've obviously had Bethesda and Panic Button do a lot of games on the Nintendo Switch. Games like Doom and Wolfenstein 2. Excellent ports of those games. Doom is still one of my favorite Nintendo Switch games and one of my most played Nintendo Switch games because of just how good that port ended up being. You have Feral Interactive, of course, doing games like Alien Isolation and Grid. And of course, you have Virtuos. Now, Virtuos is interesting because Virtuos actually worked on LA Noire for the Nintendo Switch. So Virtuos is a company that a lot of Nintendo Switch owners are familiar with. Of course, they did Dark Souls on the Nintendo Switch. And Outer Worlds is also wrapping up on the Nintendo Switch. It's supposed to be a Q1 or a Q2 2020 release for the Nintendo Switch. So it's not like these companies aren't able to do these huge games. But of course, the one game that everyone is comparing this Red Dead Redemption 2 leak to is The Witcher 3, the impossible game that somehow CD Projekt Red and Saber Interactive brought over to the Nintendo Switch. If The Witcher 3 could come to the Nintendo Switch, anything could come to the Nintendo Switch is what a lot of people are saying. And of course, the fact that The Witcher 3 is an open world style game, much like Red Dead Redemption 2. A lot of people are saying if The Witcher 3 is able to be done, then Red Dead Redemption 2 is able to be done. But I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as that. And I sort of want to dig deeper into The Witcher 3 and Red Dead 2 comparison because I think there's a lot of things that people are just sort of overlooking. Now, one of the things with The Witcher 3 was, of course, the size of the game. When you look at something like The Witcher 3, the base game for The Witcher 3 was 50 gigs, and then, of course, you had all the subsequent DLC. Now, somehow CD Projekt Red managed to fit all of that onto a 32 gigabyte cartridge, which is very impressive. But when you're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, that game is nearly double the size for the base game. Red Dead Redemption 2 is over 100 gigabytes of data. Obviously, 100 gigs is double the size of something like 50 gigs. So would they be able to fit all that onto a cartridge, especially a 32 gigabyte cartridge? Probably not. Like, that is a large downscale. And I know what you're saying to yourself. Well, RGT, we just heard about these brand new 64 gigabyte cards that are coming to the Nintendo Switch. So now you can have bigger games on the system. And you're somewhat correct in that aspect, but you have to look at the economical landscape of things right now with the system, because there's a reason why many games are not put onto 32 gigabyte cartridges. Really, when it comes down to it, The Witcher 3 was the first game to utilize a 32 gigabyte cartridge in North America for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 released in Japan on a 32 gigabyte cartridge, but really, aside from those two games, no other companies have utilized a 32 gigabyte cartridge. Now, why is that? Just because of the cost of these cartridges. The 32 gigabyte cartridge is a lot more expensive than something like a 16 or an 8 gigabyte cartridge. So what's to say that the 64 gigabyte cartridge is going to be cheap? It's not going to be cheap. It wouldn't be very economically viable for companies to get out of the gate and start using these 64 gigabyte cartridges because of the price of them. If this technology is just starting and rolling off of the press line, obviously it's going to command a very high price tag, and it's not going to be very attractive when it comes to something like a game like Red Dead Redemption 2 that's obviously going to have to use a larger cartridge size. I would think 32 gigs would be the absolute minimum they could use with something like this, unless the whole game is entirely a download, and then you would get into a whole nother atmosphere of things. So unless Nintendo is helping with the publishing or the cartridge costs of this, I just don't think it's very economically viable for Rockstar to be putting a game the size of Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Nintendo Switch. You also have to look at something with The Witcher 3 in terms of the downgrades. Now, I think The Witcher 3 still looks really good on the Nintendo Switch, especially in handheld mode, but when you start playing in dock mode, you can definitely see a visual downgrade. And when you just look at something like The Witcher 3 in comparison graphically to Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, let's be real, is definitely a more taxing game on modern hardware. When you look at graphical comparisons of a game like Witcher 3 to Red Dead Redemption 2, let's be honest, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a definitely more graphically intensive game than a game like Witcher 3. I think they both look great, but if I had to pick one, Red Dead Redemption 2 has a more realistic style, and there's a lot of high resolution textures and things like that. And even the consoles we have on the market right now, the PS4 and the Xbox One, they struggled a bit at times with Red Dead Redemption 2. So imagine the sort of thing that would have to be done to get the Nintendo Switch to have a version of Red Dead Redemption 2. Really, when it comes to Rockstar and their catalog of games, to me, Grand Theft Auto 5 makes a hell of a lot more sense than something like Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a game that has been consistently selling for quite a while now. It was originally released on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, so obviously a Nintendo Switch version of the game would pretty much be more along the lines of a PS3 or an Xbox 360 game, more so than an Xbox One or a PS4 version of the game. Grand Theft Auto 5 has released on a plethora of systems as well, and like I said, it continually sells very well. Now, Red Dead Redemption 2 did sell very well, but when you compare Red Dead Redemption sales to Grand Theft Auto sales, it's sort of night and day. And we've seen Grand Theft Auto on Nintendo platforms before. Of course, it's been a very long time. We had the Grand Theft Auto game on the Nintendo DS, which was pretty much just like a drug selling simulator, but it was a really fun game. So I would think that Rockstar would want to put their big cornerstone, something like Grand Theft Auto 5, instead of something like Red Dead Redemption 2. But I think the biggest problem I have with this Red Dead Redemption 2 leak is back to Instant Gaming. Now, like I said, Instant Gaming isn't a bad website or anything like that. Obviously, they are a big established website. You can see here that many people are buying stuff on here. Many people are doing user reviews on here. You know, it's an established website, but their track record does show some spotty listings for things in the past. They actually put up a listing for a Banjo-Kazooie remake for Steam that, of course, never came came to fruition. And on the Nintendo Switch, they put up a listing for a Metroid Prime trilogy, and of course that never came into fruition either. Now, I'm not saying that neither of these games are in existence. You know, some people still think that a Metroid Prime HD trilogy is coming to the Nintendo Switch, but obviously they have done some listings before that are a bit questionable and things that never came to fruition. Maybe they're just doing it to drum up interest in their website. Obviously, a lot of people, myself included, are now talking about instant gaming when in the past we wouldn't have been talking about instant gaming. So if you get people to come to your website and then they, you know, go to look for Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Nintendo Switch and then they see some of your other prices on stuff, maybe they want to spend some money with you. Maybe you've gotten them in. So could this be just a publicity stunt? Could this be just a misinformed listing? I definitely think it's a lot more possible than Red Dead Redemption 2 actually coming to the Nintendo Switch. I'm not saying that the game is definitely not coming, but I'm like 95% sure that this probably won't be something that ends up happening. So I don't mean to rain on your parade or anything like that. There's still a slight chance, but I would not hold your breath on Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to the Nintendo Switch because there's just too many variables. There's too many things going on with just the sheer size and scope of this game that I just think it wouldn't make that much sense on the system. I think a game like Grand Theft Auto 5 would make a hell of a lot more sense. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this whole situation. Do you believe this Red Dead Redemption 2 leak? Do you think that Nintendo is going to announce this game during their upcoming Nintendo Direct in the month of January? Is this one of the GameStop listings that we have now seen in GameStop's system? Or is this simply a case of an improper listing, or maybe just a website trying to drum up some interest in their site? Let me know in the comments down below, and as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out some other videos on the channel, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Later.